What happens when the John Wick of anime falls in love, retires, starts a family, and gets completely out of shape? Apparently, he opens up a convenience store in a suburban neighborhood and spends his days eating steaming pork buns or dozing off. That's great and all, but what happens when his old life comes knocking again? What's up, anime fans and manga readers? That's Sakamoto Days in a nutshell, an anime that blends high-octane action with laugh-out-loud comedy, all while sneaking in a surprisingly heartfelt core. Imagine if One Punch Man and Spy X Family had a baby, but it was raised on classic Yakuza flicks. That's the vibe we're dealing with here, and honestly, it works. This is not the first time we're talking about this series here on the channel, and I have a sneaking suspicion it won't be the last. My previous video on it was in the You Should Probably Read category, and I gotta say, seeing my favorite characters rendered out in full color and motion, I feel like a proud dad watching his baby grow up. I remember picking up Sakamoto Days back when the manga first dropped. At first, I thought it was just going to be another overpowered guy in mundane setting type of story. Not that there's anything wrong with those kinds of stories, but these days they tend to come up a dime a dozen, and yeah, the early chapters leaned into that. Sakamoto was this legendary assassin turned convenience store owner, casually handling threats from the underworld while making sure he got home in time for dinner. But what really kept me hooked was how the series balanced its humor with genuinely intense action and a thoughtful look at what it means to walk away from violence. What really makes this show stand out is how effortlessly it jumps between tones. One minute you're watching Sakamoto stock shelves and bicker with his wife or assistant, and the next he's dodging bullets and taking down an entire gang without breaking a sweat. It's this constant back and forth between domestic wholesomeness and high-stakes underworld drama that keeps things fresh. In a way, it reminds me of Spy X Family, but instead of a spy trying to raise a daughter, it's a retired hitman just trying to run his store without getting dragged back into the business. I think there should be a separate genre for these kinds of stories. You know, the ones where these dangerous characters are thrown into mundane situations. It's kinda like a fish out of water situation, but the exact opposite because this time the fish is actually super dangerous. You take these dangerous, badass characters and put them in everyday life situations, forcing them to be normal people. It's not the first time we've seen this in anime or manga. The Way of the House Husband did it, The Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting did it, and Sakamoto Days is doing it now. The difference? The action in this show goes insanely harder than those two ever did. If you went into this expecting a chill, lighthearted comedy, you might be in for a shock. Yes, there are jokes and there's almost a slice of life rhythm to the early parts of the show, but then they just flip a switch and all of a sudden you're watching the most intense, nail-biting fight scene you've seen in a while. There's been some online conversation about the quality of the animation, and on one hand, I kinda see where they're coming from. In recent times, anime fans have been spoiled with the godlike animation and choreography from shows like Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer, and comparing Sakamoto Days to those juggernauts won't do it any justice. The fight scenes have a lot of wind effects that obscure some of the action, and the framing for some scenes has been questionable. However, standing on its own, the animation is more than serviceable, and the mangaka Yuto Suzuki already did most of the heavy lifting in the choreography department, and the way he blends absurdity with actual combat skill is something special. At some point, Sakamoto literally stops a bullet by spitting out a cough drop at just the right angle, and that's not even the craziest thing he does. Controversial animation or not, when you have stuff like that in your show, you automatically get my seal of approval. One of the biggest surprises for me in the story of Sakamoto Days was Shin Asakura. This guy is a total scene stealer. He's a mind-reading esper with solid combat skills and a fantastic voice performance by Nobunaka Shimazaki. If you recognize that name, it's because he voiced some seriously iconic characters like Haruka from Free, Mahito from Jujutsu Kaisen, and Yuno from Black Clover. The guy just knows how to bring a character to life. What makes Shin so fun to watch is his dynamic with Sakamoto. He starts off frustrated trying to convince his old mentor to return to the assassin life, but as the story unfolds, you see him slowly start to understand why Sakamoto walked away. His arc is truly something to witness, and I'm happy to say that they don't drop the ball on his development even further along in the manga. Alright, let's talk about one thing a lot of people were worried about: the fat jokes. Anime doesn't always have the best track record when it comes to portraying plus-sized characters with respect, so I was a little nervous going in, but so far, it's actually not that bad. The jokes are mild, they don't feel overly mean-spirited, and most importantly, Sakamoto is still portrayed as an absolute beast. His weight isn't a weakness, it doesn't slow him down in fights, and it doesn't make him any less terrifying as an opponent. If anything, it makes him come across as a tank, and I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't want to be left alone in a ring with him. Can fat guys have aura? Yes, they absolutely can. So, should you watch Sakamoto Days? Yeah, if you're into action-heavy anime with killer fight scenes, sharp comedy, and a genuinely lovable cast, then yes, absolutely. Whether you're here for the ridiculous combat, the surprisingly wholesome family moments, or just to hear some top-tier voice acting, this show delivers. I am very much a fan of the manga, and I will say that I still believe it's a superior experience to the anime adaptation, at least so far. However, there is a charm in seeing those characters portrayed in motion and color and music, and for that alone, I'll definitely be sticking with it. I can't wait for you all to see just how bonkers the show gets later on as the world of assassins is expanded and new characters are introduced. The Order, X and his crew, Hisuke and Pisuke, and that's just scratching the surface. It's still early in the anime's run, but if it keeps up this level of quality, Sakamoto Days could easily become one of the best action comedies of the year. Let's see where it goes. Anyway, that's all we have for today, folks. Do you agree with my take? Maybe there are some awesome facts about the Sakamoto Days anime that I left out. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please subscribe if you haven't already and ring the notification bell to get regular updates on new videos. I make awesome anime and manga content like this every week, so be sure to check them out. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.